Hey everybody, it's Pax. Welcome to the channel. I just wanted to do a quick video today to kind of hype build a little bit for Scarlet Keys, the new expansion that's coming out, and to talk a bit about the customizable cards that we saw in the preview article. If you're unfamiliar with them, I'll pop them up on the screen now. These are the cards that we saw in the preview article there. We knew that you could spend some experience to tick off some of these boxes on these companion cards underneath, and that'll grant them additional effects, but it was pretty sparse on details, and there's been a ton of discussion and theorizing exactly how they're going to work going on since the article dropped, but I was mostly not paying them too much attention without having the precise rules with how they work. Of course, that changed today, now that MJ has provided us the customizable rules straight from the the Scarlet Keys rulebook. So if you haven't had a chance to read through the rules, I'll go through them really quickly right now, and there's a link in the description to MJ's tweet announcing them. But before I continue, I don't really normally do calls to action on the channel, but maybe consider liking the video and subscribing to the channel. I do regular plays, and I don't really like the self-promotion aspect a lot. I love sharing with the community, but I don't like feeling like I'm imposing myself on the community either, so a lot of my series, especially the campaign play-alongs, I don't advertise that they're going up aside from the campaign play-along channel. And if you like watching those, you got to subscribe and click the bell, otherwise you might not see them. So we'll carry on, and we'll do a quick read through these customizable rules. So customizable is a keyword that appears in some player cards in this expansion. Customizable cards might seem unremarkable at first, but have tremendous potential for improvement over the course of a campaign. By spending experience points, each one can be custom tailored to become a powerful tool in an investigator's deck. Each customizable card starts at level 0 and has a separate sheet containing a checklist of upgrades that can be purchased using experience points. Each upgrade is accompanied by one or more checkboxes. Unless otherwise specified by a card effect, an investigator can only mark checkboxes on an upgrade sheet before or after a scenario when they are upgrading their deck or purchasing new cards for the deck. Spending 1 point of experience allows an investigator to mark one checkbox on one of their card's upgrade sheets. To purchase an upgrade, an investigator must mark all of an upgrade's checkboxes. Once an upgrade is purchased, each copy of the card it is paired with is treated as having that upgrade as a gained card ability for that investigator only. So you have to have both of them ticked, and having both of them ticked affects all copies of the card in your deck. So if you have 2 copies of Hunter's Armor, you only have 1 copy of this customizable card with the tick boxes to pair with the 2 of them. So, like it says here, for example, the Hunter's Armor has the following upgrade: durable, plus 2 health. If 1 experience point is spent off to check one of the 2 boxes next to durable, the upgrade's not yet purchased. After both are marked, costing a total of 2 experience points, 1 each, the upgrade is purchased, and each copy of Hunter's Armor in that investigator's deck is affected by the upgrade. So furthermore, a customizable card's level is equal to half the total number of checkboxes marked on its upgrade sheet, rounded up. So, yeah. For example, a customizable card with 3 marked checkboxes is a level 2 card. So, half rounded up. Spending 3 experience to mark 3 more checkboxes for 6 total would make it a level 3 card. Note that this means some investigators are not able to upgrade a customizable card past a certain point if their deck building options would forbid them from including the card in their deck after the upgrade is made. So for example, if you're playing Skids, unfortunately, you cannot put more than 4 checkboxes on either the Runic Axe or the Hunter's Armor. So that's a good limitation to know. An upgrade sheet cannot have more than a total of 10 checkboxes marked. This means that the maximum number of experience points that may be spent on a particular customizable card is 10, and its maximum level is 5. That seems super reasonable. Like, why would you be able to tick more? Especially with this previous rule about the level being half of the checkboxes marked, you'd have a level 6 card, and no one could take level 6 cards, so fine. Spending experience points on 1 or more upgrades for a customizable card already in an investigator's deck is considered to be upgrading a card for the purpose of card effects. That is super cool, and we'll get into why that's so cool in a minute. Last couple of things here. An investigator may directly purchase 1 or more copies of a new customizable card with 1 or more upgrades by spending only the amount of experience points required to purchase those upgrades. Doing so counts as purchasing a new card, but not upgrading an existing card. So I don't know if this one's really the clearest, but MJ did expand upon this. Basically, what it means is when you spend experience to check off tick boxes, that it counts as spending experience to add the card into your deck if you so desire to add that card to your deck. So if I'm like just tick boxing off my Hunter's Armor slowly and it's not even in my deck yet, when I tick box like the last tick box that I want to have checked off, if I've spent an XP to upgrade my Hunter's Armors, I am then effectively able to add both of those two Hunter's Armors into my deck. So if I've got Enchanted and Protective Runes, and I just finish off Durable by spending 2 XP between, a different scenario, when I spend that 2 XP, I'm allowed to add Hunter's Armor in at that time for no additional cost. Upgrades for customizable cards are considered to be present on a card at all times, even while the card is in and out of the play area, such as an Investigator's Hand or discard pile. That's important for things like Enchanted on the Hunter's Armor that make it a relic. Or I believe the Runic Axe as well has that heirloom upgrade. Spending 1 or more experience points on upgrades on a customizable card's upgrade sheet is permanent and cannot be refunded. Makes sense. During gameplay, upgrade sheets should be placed in an out-of-play area nearby so they can be quickly referenced. This is, that's all up to you, however you want to handle that. I'm going to be playing mostly on TTS, and I'll have one of these off to the side with a bunch of scribbles all over it using the pen tool. Additional printer-friendly upgrade sheets can be downloaded and printed from fantasyflightgames.com. I sincerely doubt they're up yet, but they probably will be when the product releases. So yeah, that's a lot to unpack, and I think it's going to be interesting to see what people have to say about them for the next little bit. Now that we know how the cards level up, how much XP can be spent into them, I just wanted to go briefly over a few characters that I think are going to be particularly interesting picks for these cards. So the first is Lily. I've struggled a lot with Lily since her release with making sure that I have enough weapons that provide enough of a combat boost to be reliably fighting all of the enemies that come out. And I think that Runic Axe is going to be solving that problem for me in a really cool way. You can choose to have it scale up precisely how much you need to give it some different avenues of how it's scaling up with those different inscriptions. You can choose for it to consume your level 0 slots if you think you need it at level 0, but you don't have to do that. You could upgrade into it later, obviously. You could take down the rabbit hole to upgrade the thing 1 free tick per scenario if you want to, because, adding the ticks counts as upgrades. Point being, I feel like it's giving me a big nudge with the way that I prefer to upgrade my cards in my decks. I like to upgrade lots of upgrades. I like to have good low to mid-level things and do a lot of incremental upgrades rather than relying on big bomb cards. Not that big bomb cards don't have their place. They absolutely do. But personally, I find that raising the average level of the deck works better for me. A lot of the same things could be said about the Hunter's Armor. I'm not all that convinced that she loves many of these upgrades on it, but overall, if for whatever reason you find yourself in a situation where you need a bunch of survivability, for 4 XP you can have a 4 cost, 4 health, 4 sanity body slot, and that's going to keep you alive. Whether or not you spend an extra experience to get up to 5 experience total spent to have these in your arcane slot instead, I don't know about that, because then you're kind of looking at why didn't I just pick up Spiritual Resolve, right? The next is Norman. He's sort of in the same boat with Lily in terms of being able to upgrade the Servitor and Power Word with Down the Rabbit Hole, but I'm particularly interested in these two because I feel like they really play well into his ability that lets him play cards off the top of his deck. For me, I love running Magnifying Glasses in Norman because one of the things that I always struggle a lot with Mystics, especially high-level stuff, is your action efficiency, is how many actions am I spending playing stuff versus how much progress am I making. And having that base 5 intellect makes it really easy to just play a Magnifying Glass and start investigating at 6. And now, if I've played this fast Magnifying Glass for 1, it's so easy for me to crush that with the Servitor's additional cost, discard that Magnifying Glass, and get him out into play. And now I have an extra action to do on one of these upgrades, whether it's the Jaws that snatch or the Claws that catch. Any of those, the Eyes of Flame in particular, I think is kind of the interesting one because you can stack up some bonuses with St. Hubert's Key. Maybe you which is the one? Is it dominance? No, it's not. It's oh, I can't quite read it on my screen here, but the one that lets you return the card to your hand instead. To get that magnifying glass back, play it again, bam. Now that Eyes of Flame is investigating at 5, right? So I think it's cool that he'll be able to use that in that way. Also, just to pick up the health on it could be really interesting. And then it just lets you like scale it into the late game. I think Power Word is going to be kind of really similar in that like it's fast. You can play it off the top of your deck. It's only going to be costing 2 instead of 3 in that case. It's got an intellect icon, so if you're doing atlases, you can probably get it to your hand really easily by putting it on the atlas. You know, it's not a huge amount of icons if you do that, but you certainly can do it. And then once you put it onto an enemy, you can shove them away, exhaust them, do any of the Betrayal, Confess, or Distract commands, and then again, it has that ability to scale up with the action efficiency with Tongue Twister and Thrice Spoken. I think Carolyn's also a really interesting one because this is the first of these where the upper bounds of the XP limit is going to be really important. So, for instance, Carolyn would be able to pick up only 6 boxes ticked from among the options on the back of Hunter's Armor, and she wouldn't be able to upgrade the Runic Axe at all because it is a weapon and she cannot have upgraded weapons. Similarly, she could get 2 boxes ticked off of the Summon Servitor because she only gets 0 to 1 level Mystic cards, but the weird thing here is that if she upgrades the Mercy option on Power Word, that card says it can heal Horror now, and now she can go all the way to level 5. So I find that really interesting, and I think that again, Carolyn, I find is an investigator that I've struggled with a lot with in terms of like making sure I'm able to do enough stuff. And I think that having a card in play that's like, oh, here, this is letting me, I can have 3 copies of this in play, and a bunch of enemies are going to be picking me up a bunch of extra clues while I make them go walk around the map for me. Something like that could be really interesting to do, and also just be like, oh, and here's another. In addition to all that, I can still heal some horror. I think that one of the really interesting things, though, is probably going to be some combination of the Hunter's Armor with Hex Drinker, and one of either Durable or Hallowed to turn the Hunter's Armor into like a card draw engine for her. I don't know how much Carolyn suffers for card draw, but say you go ahead and you add Lonnie Ritter to your deck, give the Hunter's Armor +2 health, and then give it Hex Drinker so that it's like, all right, if I'm ever taking damage from a Treachery, and maybe pick up the Protective Runes too, or if anyone takes damage from a Treachery, it goes on my Hunter's Armor and I get a card draw out of it. I think that's really neat. And then Marie kind of ends up in the same boat as Carolyn. Since her deck building limits her to 0 to 3 Mystic, but 0 to 5 spells, she can have the Summon Servitor up to 6 boxes, but Power Word can go all the way up. But more importantly than that, Power Word's ability is a spell action ability, meaning if Doom is in play, then she will have a bonus action available to her to be able to command the enemies to do her bidding. And I absolutely love the theme of that mixed with this artwork. Marie singing some haunting melodies to these enemies, and she's just commanding the forces of the mythos to do her bidding. That is like some of the coolest theming I've seen in the game. I think, if you've not seen the other spoilers that we've seen on teasers, I mean to say, for Mystic, that Amina character who has a Doom ability, there's that Dowsing Rod as well. I think Marie's going to make a really cool appearance with the cards that we're seeing so far. And that Dowsing Rod being able to activate Power Word, being able to do stuff, it's like there's some cool things going on in that avenue, and I'm really excited to explore that. So that pretty much sums up everything I wanted to talk about in this video. I wasn't going to be long. I knew it wasn't going to be long, but I'd love to open up the floor in the comments for the customizable interactions that you're excited for from these 4 cards. It seems like, there's a lot of 0 to 2 characters that are going to have access to a little bit of each of these. Are there any investigators I didn't mention that you have some particularly juicy tidbits that you can't keep to yourself? Let me know down in the comments. I'd be really excited to talk about it down there. Thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.